All right, landing spot is so important for wide receivers. We talk all the time pre-draft, and we just rank these guys in a vacuum, even though we're comparing giant, big slots, X receivers, slot guys, like all these kinds. We just put them in a hopper together and put rankings together. Now we've seen where these guys have actually landed. I think there's a couple of really interesting landing spots to talk about. The first one I want to hit is Brian Thomas Jr. in the Jags offense. So what's your initial reaction to that fit? And generally, Brian Thomas Jr., what he can be in the NFL?
I think it's exactly what Trevor Lawrence has been missing throughout his career. When you go back to Clemson days and what he did so well with T. Higgins and the other wide receivers there, like the back shoulder and the go balls. Like that was a big part of Clemson's offense, and Trevor Lawrence was very adept at throwing those routes and giving his guys a chance to make plays. And look at Brian Thomas Jr.'s tape, and it's like, go balls and hitches. And it's like that exact route tree. I think it was like 75% of his yards. Yeah. I think Scott Barrett tweeted were on goes and hitches. And it's like that. And I think he kind of got underbilled in terms of how much a project Brian Thomas is. Like, I don't think he's a day one complete wide receiver, but it's definitely a skill set that the Jags have not had. They try to address that with Gabe Davis, but like objectively, Brian Thomas is an element on that route tree than even Gabe Davis is. So I think they're trying to build around Trevor Lawrence more so than they ever have before, because they gave him a bunch of these, midget slot receivers that forcing him to work in the middle of the field when that's not really ever been his game. His game has been throwing into tight windows, and hopefully now they have guys that can make plays in those areas.
Are you at all concerned that the first round guy, so in that offense, where's the number one dude? They've got a whole bunch of these guys now that actually all seem to be vertically oriented, like Brian Thomas Jr., Gabe Davis is sort of a poor man's version of that in free agency beforehand. Even Christian Kirk is best running vertically from the slot. Like, where's just the number one receiver to work with?
That is the concern. And I do think, it's third down, you see man coverage. Yeah, Kirk, you're probably going to, but I don't know if I'm trusting any other guy in that receiver room. So I still, I questioned that when they signed Gabe Davis, but where they're at in the draft, that's probably the shot I would have taken for them, just because of what he could be, the upside of Brian Thomas Jr. And what he could be in that offense. But he's still, like, his skill set's going to be more like a DK Metcalf than a true number one. I still don't think they have like a true number one in that offense, but hopefully they can piece it together by, having three guys that can maybe do a certain thing well.
We had many debates on the show about Keon Coleman and just him as a prospect. And then, of course, what the Bills are going to do at receiver. One of the bigger stories of the draft, they're trading down. The Chiefs coming up to get Xavier Worthy. The Bills finally get their guy, which is Keon Coleman. Sam, you've got some pretty strong takes on Coleman. But, Mike, I want to know where you landed on Coleman as a player and then his fit with the Bills.
I liked him as a player. I thought as a big slot in this draft class, he was probably – I thought he was going to be really good in the NFL. I think he could have been like a Michael Thomas in the right scheme. Where you're running them on slants, you're running them on option routes, and he gets that little bit of separation, great ball skills, great hands, is going to secure all those plays, easy money. Almost like how, like Travis Kelce gets used nowadays for the Chiefs, where it's just like that guy knows how to work the middle of the football field, has good hands, and then if he just develops a rapport with quarterback, he can go off. Now, for Buffalo, they have like a zillion guys in that mold already. Like they signed Curtis Samuel, who does that. They have Khalil Shakir, who's been a slot through his career at Boise State and with the Bills. And it's like, man, they needed the guy who was kind of the route runner on the outside. And I've just never seen that from Keon Coleman, even dating back to his time at Michigan State heading into the year, to think that that's what he can be, to like be a one-to-one Stephon Diggs replacement or even like a Gabe Davis replacement. So I am worried about, of all the receiver fits that were kind of in the top 50 that we saw. That was one where after the fact, I was like, I don't know if I see it, but I don't know. I buy into the guy. The guy's going to figure it out, I think. And I think everyone's buying into the guy right now.
Yeah. I mean, he's like, the PFT had a tweet that he's been like, he's a plant by the Bills social media team to just generate clips. And honestly, it would work if it was. But they've already come out and said that he's going to play X receiver for them. Now, look, all those guys move around. Like Stephon Diggs spent 30% of his snaps in the slot. So it's not like he'll never be used where you want him to be used. But that, to me, is terrifying. Like, they've sort of come out and said, yeah, his primary role, even if it's only 2/3 of his time, is exactly the last thing you want him doing, in my opinion. Like Matt Harmon had the same take. I had the same take. You've identified the same thing. He's a big slot. That's where he wins. And he doesn't win separating on the outside against man coverage, which sounds like exactly what they're going to ask him to do right off the bat. It just feels like a situation where he's kind of getting set up to fail.
The one thing I will say is that he also didn't really get a ton of chances on true like go balls. And now for a guy like that, when you're on like a 4.61, you're never going to blow past a corner, right? Like any plays you make in that regard are always kind of got to be at the catch point, or you just got hip to hip leverage and the guy puts it on you. So he'll have a better quarterback at finding him on theoretically what he could be doing well on the outside. But that just never was the case at Florida State. So I guess there's still like some TBD aspect to parts of his game as a true X receiver.
Right.
Do you have any other fits you were wondering about?
For wide receiver, I think there's a ton of them. What do you make of Xavier Legette being the guy in Carolina, not just the sort of answer at wide receiver for them, but somebody they traded up to secure the fifth-year option on to make sure of that?
So at least they were saying after the fact the right things about how to use him. I don't think he's also the answer, though, for what they need in that offense. Now, more speed, more vertical ability, but, man, I like just that you worry about the profile for a number of manners. One is just that it's like was not a full route tree guy. At any time you're not a full route tree guy projecting the NFL, that's always scary, where it's like he is a over route, go route, slant route, try to run him on a dig, blaze out, any other things. It's just he's not getting open. And then at the line of scrimmage, he's big and strong and like that can project to the NFL in a number of ways, but I thought he did not get off press well at all. I thought when guys got his hands on him, he really struggled to hit his landmarks and be a precise route runner. And then it's like, yeah, he developed over the course of his career and had a big breakout, but it was also in year 5. And you do worry about the guys who needed that physical advantage to dominate at the collegiate level. And he kind of, that's why you worry about the Josh Doxsons of the world, the guys who it's really late in their career before they finally figure it out. So he takes a lot of like red flags, but it's also something that they just didn't have a speedy downfield threat last year. Now you maybe say you have the separator in Deontay Johnson, or maybe say you definitely have the separator in Deontay Johnson who can get open, and that's what you wanted in your offense. But that was, on my board at least, the single biggest reach of the first round. So I do worry about, and I said the same thing about Jonathan Mingo last year. I had Jonathan Mingo outside my top 100, and I was like, it takes a lot of things that you just worry about for a wide receiver, not being able to take that next step to the NFL. And his rookie year was a little bit of a struggle. So I think there could be similar issues with Xavier Legette, even if I do think at least his usage will be correct there, or they'll use him in a manner that can be conducive to a skill set.